Social sciences, liberal arts, and humanities is my pride and joy because I was a social science kid in undergrad. I received my bachelor's of arts in sociology. And so this is kind of my family, okay? Humanities, liberal arts, and social sciences include things like anything from English to literature to sociology, political science, communication, psychology, anthropology, history, criminal justice, gender studies, ASL, which is American Sign Language. Trying to think if I'm missing anything else. Philosophy that I haven't mentioned. Let me look at my notes, as well as business, communications. And there are some colleges that even offer its own liberal arts major, which pretty much means that you can take a number of classes that you kind of pick and choose within all of these different categories. I mean, within the different like topics that I just covered. These are considered kind of the original topics that were discussed in education way, way back in the day. They really did start out more with like mathematics, rhetoric, being able to argument and philosophize different topics. And so the social science, liberal arts, and humanities are majors that have to do with thinking and philosophizing about like the large kind of meta big ideas that we have in our society and kind of like the global society that we live in on this planet. So I call these majors the thinkers or the philosophers. These majors, the social science majors, are majors in which students have to really learn how to critically think about a lot of different issues and different aspects that we see both in our society and other societies around the world as topics such as gender, income, class, race, education, the prison system, the justice system, law. I'm throwing out just like keywords, even healthcare, mental health, equality, injustice, war, revolutions. These are all different topics and obviously much more that are discussed in these majors. And so these majors are really good for students who like to think big. They like to discuss these different types of ideas. They like to think critically about what we could do to possibly help solve or improve a lot of these issues that we face. Also, globalization, immigration, these are topics that are now being talked about a lot, even like not going really into like the scientific part of it, but even like climate change and how that might be affecting societies around the world. Okay. So again, social science, humanities, and liberal arts majors are majors in that really talk about society and issues within it. There is also like English majors, for example, are included. Literature majors are included also in like the liberal arts category division, I would say. So that is a little bit different. An English major or a literature major, for example, would actually like learn the proper grammar and form of the English language in order to be able to teach or potentially like write professionally as well. So these majors, like I've said, are really good for gray thinkers. People who kind of like to maybe not necessarily have one definite answer, like our friends over in like the STEM world, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, who are like, hey, 1+1=2, and I need to know how to solve this equation to get to the answer, and that's it. A lot more black and white. Social science, liberal arts, humanities majors kind of live in the gray. Well, why does this exist, and how was it socially constructed? And if it's socially constructed, can we dismantle it? And if so, how? And if so, when? And if so, where? And so on and so forth. Okay, these majors teach you really how to think critically. They teach you how to debate. They teach you how to be able to have an educated conversation with other people on these topics, whether they agree with them or not. And what I would say that you can expect from these majors going into it in college is a lot of reading and writing. So 99.9% of these classes will be lecture based, meaning that there will be a professor usually lecturing teaching you about the topic that you are studying in the class. Most students then are just listening, taking notes, eating Doritos on the back of the class. That's up to you what you want to do with that information. But it's pretty much like a professor teaching you about this topic, presenting different ideas, presenting different examples, key dates, key figures, timelines, things like that. You listening and understanding that information, and most of the assignments that you can expect to have if you do choose to major in this division, or to choose a major in this division, are mostly all reading and writing based, meaning that most assignments are going to be essays, are going to be you reading passages or parts of books or entire books potentially on certain topics, and then you will be expected to be able to summarize it and explain it and express it in your own words, whatever it is that you learned about. Most of the exams that students in this division will take will again be some can be multiple choice for sure, that's not off the table, and obviously every professor has a different way of like assigning homework and exams, but most of them will be written and will be either like short answer or essay based. Some tests will literally be one essay that you will have to write in a certain period of time on a certain topic that was discussed in class, or potentially a series of short answers that you will have to write again in a given time. There's not a lot of memorizing in this division. I would say there's a little bit of memorizing maybe in every single major, but not so much like having to memorize, like actual anatomy of the body or math equations that you would have to do over like on the STEM side. These majors are less about memorizing and more about understanding what it is that you're being taught, and the ability to be able to then apply those ideas or theories onto different examples or different situations that might be presented to you. I would say the only times, not the only, but some of the times that you will have to memorize things is obviously like, for example, if you're a history major, you will have to memorize and know certain dates, important figures, wars, battles, things like that over time, obviously. Psychology is another one where it does require a little bit more science, or even some anthropology will require a little bit more science, and therefore memorizing of anatomy, chemistry of the brain, for example, or development of civilization over time. So obviously there you do have to memorize certain aspects, but it's not as memorization heavy as other majors for sure. These majors do have like very limited amount of math and science that is required depending on what you're choosing. Obviously, again, if you're taking something like psychology, there will be a little bit more science because you're going to have to learn the anatomy and chemistry of the brain, and how that affects the human body and overall mental health. However, if you're in a major like English, you might be required to take some basic math in order to fulfill the requirements to graduate, but you're not going to really need to know a lot of math in order to be an English or a literature major. Okay, lucky you. There are no required labs usually in this division, meaning that most of the classes, again, take place in a classroom with a professor speaking to you, teaching you, you taking notes, and then you going home and completing whatever assignment, whether individual or group assignments, that is assigned to you. Over in STEM, instead, a lot of the, especially science-based courses will have a lecture component, but will also have a lab component where you will have to go into a lab and actually do some research or some experiments. In this division, there's not so much of that. It's mostly just in the classroom. What are some common jobs that you can expect to be able to apply to with a major from the social science, liberal arts, or humanities division? Here's the thing, y'all. How do I put this? These majors are excellent for students who are not really sure what it is that they want to do after college, but who have a strong sense of wanting to talk and learn and be able to critically think about the topics covered in this division, who are passionate about these topics. Again, topics like migration or gender, or race or class, like this is like the bread and butter for these types of people who are like interested and passionate about these topics. However, unlike certain majors that feed directly into a job, I'll give you an example. If you go to trade school to be a plumber, you will most likely get a job as a plumber once you graduate. If you go to cosmetology psychology school to be a nail tech, you will probably be a nail tech once you graduate, right? These the majors in this division don't necessarily train you for a specific career. They give you the benefit of being able to look at certain topics and critically think about them in a certain way, be able to express yourself very well, but they don't necessarily lead you into a specific career or job every single time. However, the most common, I would say, jobs that people get who study liberal arts, humanities, or social sciences in college would be teaching, working in the criminal justice system, working in the legal system, prison system, anything really in education, counseling, social work, really any job that has to do with the general public. Even if you study business, for example, going into business, going into management, marketing, advertising, like I said already, counseling. These are just a few of like the millions of jobs that you can do. The nice thing about these majors is that they really can be applied to almost any single job, because you can argue that by you understanding these different topics, you can be a good fit to be able to work with the general public or a certain population of your interest later on. However, what I will say, and the biggest piece of advice that I will give to you if you are choosing one of these majors, and I would say specifically like psychology, sociology, philosophy, political science, anthropology, any of these kind of big social science majors, is to continue your education after you get a bachelor's degree. If you graduate from a 4-year program and get a bachelor's degree in psychology, you will not have the credentials to be a psychologist once you graduate. You will not be able to work as a sociologist or a philosopher. I mean, I guess anyone can be a philosopher. But what I'm saying is that these majors, you kind of need to build on with extra degrees after you graduate in order to become a professional or an expert in these fields. So what do I mean by that? For you to become a psychologist, once you graduate with a bachelor's in psychology, you will need to get a master's and most likely a PsyD, which is a doctorate in psychology, for you to actually become a clinical psychologist or a counselor. If you want to become a K through 12 teacher, you will need to get a teacher's credentials through your state once you graduate, if you choose a major in this division. If you want to be a college counselor, you will need a master's to teach at a community college or a PhD to teach at a 4-year college. So what I'm saying is this: these are really good and flexible majors. However, for you to kind of like reach the higher levels or higher positions of these specific fields that you might be wanting to work in, a lot of these majors will require you to continue your education and get an even higher degree after school. For example, I graduated with a bachelor's of arts in sociology in my undergrad, which I loved. If you're interested in my own journey or experience, I can make a video about that. If not, totally fine. And then I went back years later to get my master's in education because I was working in higher ed and I saw that I needed that degree in order to kind of keep going and specialize in my field. And that's where we are, folks. In conclusion, social sciences, liberal arts, humanities deal with the big ideas of life. The students in these majors are the thinkers, they're the philosophers. You tell them something, they ask you why. They want to know, they're curious, they're interested and passionate about social justice, about social change, about looking at different issues that we deal with in our society or global societies found around the world. And they are interested in how it all kind of interconnects and interrelates. They like to read, they like to write, and if you don't, learn to love it because there's going to be a lot of it. They're not going to have to memorize so much, and there's not going to be as much hands-on work like in a lab or having to create like actual bodies of work like an artist would in the fine art division, which I'll talk about also. So these are more reading and writing based majors, lecture based majors, and really majors that deal with the big questions of life. So there's a lot you can do with it. And at the same time, it will not train you specifically for a certain job. I really hope that this helps. I hope that this is a nice little summary for the social sciences. I loved being a social science major. I would do it 100 times over if I could. And if you do end up choosing a major in this division, I hope that you love it as well. And just remember, like I talked about in the other video, you can always double major or pick a minor that is in a different division. So if you are a creative thinker, critical thinker, but you also really enjoy like science or technology or math or fine art or a health degree, you can always kind of mix and match them depending on what your school allows you to do. So if you're interested in one of these majors, drop a comment below. As always, ask me some questions, leave some comments, and I will try to respond as many as possible, help you out even more. Other than that, pretty sure that's it. I hope you guys enjoy this video, and until next time, take care of yourself and others. See ya. Thank you.